Today, students, we are studying populations and samples, which is topic 6-1 in our books. Let's start with a little bit of vocabulary today, and that will help with the lesson. So first, population. Now, the meaning of population is an entire group of objects. Understand it could be people, it could be animals, it could be plants, from which data is collected. Now, that isn't always the case. It could be something that isn't living, but this is just an example of what the meaning would be. Now, let's look at sample. In sample, a sample basically is a subset of the population. And basically, it's just exactly what it says. It's a sample of the entire population. Because when you ask a statistical question about a population, it's often more efficient to gather data from a sample of the population instead of getting information from the entire set, which would take so much more time and not be as efficient. So let's look at an example. So out of 100 students, 10 are chosen to take a survey. And what we're doing is, how many would be in the sample? Okay, so 10 would be in the sample. And how many are in the population? That's the total group of 100. Alright, so let's look at a couple more terms. This one down here, the first one, is called a representative sample. Okay, this is important because in a representative sample of the population, it has the same characteristics as the population. And then a random sample of that is one reliable way to produce a representative sample. Okay, now let's go into this example. To go into a representative sample, there are 5 steps that you should take. Okay, let's look at this. Your teacher wants to buy candy for student rewards. How might she determine what would motivate students? Alright, so, she could ask students, but maybe she just needs to do a random sample, because does she want to ask all her students? So with random sample would make sense. Okay, so let's look at the 5 steps that she needs to take in consideration then. She, meaning in this case, me. So on the first step, maybe she needs to define the population, okay? And define population would mean that really we're just talking about the students that are hers, not students that are in the whole school. Okay? Now, the second step would be maybe choose the sample size. You need to get a good measure. So, you wouldn't ask like 2 or 3 students out of 100. You need to have a good number that would be a good measure. Maybe 20% of the population. Then the next step would mean make or acquire a list of all the members or students make acquire list of students. Four would be maybe to assign a number to each member of the classes, all the students, maybe assign a number. To each student. And last, then you would generate a list of random numbers.